All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Life Between the Sticks, episode 3. This time, doing Group A, Group B is finalized. That means the U.S. and England are advancing. Cody, that's all good news for you, I guess.
That is. It's very good news for me. Heritage English. Support U.S. I'm happy.
Best of both worlds, you
Exactly.
absolute cheater. We're going to be talking about U.S. 1, Iran 0. That's right. I listened how to pronounce it.
Wow.
I am paying attention to press
that
conferences.
was a tough attack by the Iranian press.
It was, we saw it coming, I think, a little bit in that one. Anyways, we're going to talk about England 3, Wales 0,
Yes.
which was a slow burn for them, but they got it over. And then, obviously, the round of 16 draw. So far, Group A and B are done, but by the time this comes out, C and D will be done, then E and F quickly, and then we will be back once all of the group stages are done to preview the knockout rounds. So before we get into the actual matches, we were just talking about the pre-match press conference that Tyler Adams and Greg Berhalter had to do.
Yeah.
And I asked you about that. I was like, talk me through a pre-match presser from a player's perspective. Obviously, at this point, everybody on the playing side knew what was going on.
Correct.
U.S. Soccer, the organization, made a decision to post it on social media, the Iranian flag in support of the protests going on there, and then that completely spilled over into the press conference, and it became a problem for the playing side of the organization. So do you guys get prepped? Do you get a heads up? Like, how do you have to handle these press conferences?
Usually when it's negative or you know that a certain reporter is going to ask a tough question, you are prepped. Maybe not with a direct answer, but you know that a tough question or two will be coming. That said, I think that the U.S. Federation getting involved with the politics side of it is a little bit much, especially when they don't brief the 24 to 30 people that it's going to affect the most. Taking that on and doing that just from the federation side of it is quite selfish in my opinion. However, I think Tyler and Greg really handled the situation very well.
Without a doubt. That's kind of my opinion on it. I think it's wild that the federation made a decision without consulting the playing side.
Exactly.
And this is my take. And this is a personal opinion, is athletes do get to these stages and it becomes a platform.
Absolutely.
And I get that. But I think the athletes should decide if they want to use it to make a gesture or put a statement or stance out. I don't think it should be up to the organization to put out the statement without the players being on board, because as we just saw, they had to answer for it.
Yes.
And Greg came out, the quotes in the Athletic afterwards, we had no idea about it.
Yeah.
And he had to apologize on behalf of the United States. We have a federal government for that.
Exactly. Well, and this is what I'm saying by they don't consult the 24 to 30 people that it actually impacts and actually have to deal with the backlash of their decision. It's not a position that they need to address. It's not a statement that they need to address. If the players and the team want to address that, I believe that they would do that on their own private platforms.
Or as a collective unit.
Exactly.
Right? Because you guys have always had opportunities to come together, and you all talk about in the locker room, say, hey, yeah, we do feel this is important, because let's us not forget this was a must-win game. The last thing these players probably needed was unnecessary distractions, extra pressure.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what we brought on ourselves. Thank God we won.
Absolutely. It's very difficult, and if they wanted to address it from a collective standpoint, very much like the English team does with Black Lives Matter. They take the knee before the game, and they address that as a collective unit. I think, as you said, if the players would have wanted to address that, they would have from their standpoint.
Yeah.
And it is important to note that the fact that we won after all of that is extremely important, because it could have been we could have received a lot of backlash for everything that
Yeah.
was to follow if we did not advance.
Very understandably so. Again, I would have loved to see maybe like the U.S. and the Iranian players do like a group photo together as like a stand of solidarity.
Absolutely.
When both teams are out there, because obviously the Iranian team is protesting. It's their country. It's their right. You know,
Absolutely.
they again, that's a perfect example. They took the opportunity to get together and do it. So,
Yes.
You ever been thrown a wild curveball where you just like, I don't know how to answer this right now?
Yeah. I mean, quite a few times, but the one that really pops to mind is following the defeat to Mexico in the under-20 CONCACAF qualifying final. Both teams had already qualified for the under-20 World Cup in Turkey, and being asked my reaction to the game. Obviously, at 19 years old, very
Raw,
inexperienced, and emotional, and I didn't really know how to answer that question after having just been beaten by Mexico in extra time on a bicycle kick. After having a man sent off 5 minutes before that, the referee, handing out yellow cards and red cards for really no reason, in my opinion, right? But yeah, it was a very tough question to answer at that point in time with the emotions being so high. But you look at how Tyler handled the question from the Iranian.
It's Iran. Yeah.
Iranian reporter.
Press.
And I think he did extremely well, especially being only 23, 24 years old.
Yeah. No, he crushed it. He got to draw on his own experience. He thanked the reporter for correcting him.
Yeah.
He even used it in his response, saying, "Hey, I appreciate you learning. This is how we progress." Like, he crushed it again. Just
very
a little
mature
bit.
answer.
Yeah. Yes. And again, just I felt like from a soccer perspective that they got hung out to dry by the federation.
I agree.
In that situation. Again, I'm not saying it's not a worthy cause. I'm not saying it's not appropriate to use their platforms. I just think heading into a must-win game at the World Cup, haven't been there for 8 years, let the players decide if and how they would like to do it.
Agreed.
Not people who sit behind computers and don't have to perform in front of 70,000 people in the stadium and millions around the world.
Yeah, the highest level of the game.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad we agree on that one.
Yes.
Again, athletes, it's their platform to use if and how they want. So some of the results from Group A, which were the early matches earlier today. Ecuador 1, Senegal 2. That was the battle for who advanced.
Yeah, it was. And it was a very good game.
Senegal was up 1-0. Ecuador equalized, and then right after that, I think it was within 5 minutes, Koulibaly smashed the second header home. You get the stat line of like, hey, 5 minutes on either side of halftime, or if you concede or score 5 minutes on either side of that, it's most likely to happen. Sure enough, it did. And the Senegalese are moving on.
Yes, and I think that speaks volumes to the depth that they have as a country, because a lot of people, really said that they wouldn't go anywhere without Sadio Mane.
Yeah.
And
huge player.
They've proven that they have the depth, that they have the ability, they have the talent to, compete on the world stage without one of the best players in the world.
I should have said this right away, but I love the third round matches because shit matters.
Yes. Yep.
They knew that both teams had to win, essentially. Like, you got to go through.
Yep.
And you get the extra effort, the extra energy.
Absolutely.
You don't get to play cautious like England did against the U.S. Like, everything is on the line in the third round, and I loved it.
Yeah, and you could see that in the way that the U.S. stepped out and performed, and I think that in all honesty, you could see both sides of the spectrum. Iran came out and they wanted to defend. They were not as aggressive going forward. And the U.S., knowing that they had to win, came out from the first whistle and, really put it to the Iranians.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they had a goal early on with Pulisic and then the offside goal. And, they really made Iran earn every opportunity that Iran, created.
Yeah, just to round off on the other one, Netherlands, who had already advanced,
Yes.
they beat Qatar 2-0. So they glossed through as the top team, so they'll be taking on the United States. Senegal has earned the right to play England as the second team in Group A. Group B, England Wales was 3-0. It took England a while to get going. They made 4 changes, but once he got the first one, it just kind of was the breakers.
Yeah.
A Rashford free kick, Bale went off injured, but I think at the end of the day, it was pretty straightforward for them.
Absolutely. I think that they knew that they would get the chances. They would create the chances, and they would get the goals as long as they continued to play their game. And you could see that early in the first half and throughout the remainder of the first half, they actually did create a lot of chances. I believe it was Danny Ward that started in goal for them, made 1 or 2 good saves. One that pops into mind is the one-on-one with Sterling, where I think Sterling, a player of his quality, should finish. But again, coming from a goalkeeper, it's a great save. Keeps Wales in the game at 0-0. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things where the firepower of England
Very much so.
kind of overwhelms Wales. And, regardless of how you look at it, Wales knew that they were already eliminated. They were kind of out there, I think, with their heart on their sleeve.
They weren't already eliminated.
Were they not?
Remember, there's a chance that they could have been on 4 points, Iran could have been on 4 points, and England could have been on 4 points.
That is true. That is true.
If they would have won.
I mean, the percentages of that were probably very, very slim.
Yeah, that game theory and probabilities on 538.
Apologies, Wales fans. I know he's Welsh, but...
No, and this is the same thing, right? Like the gambles that Southgate made against the U.S. after Wales lost to Iran, it ended up paying off. But again, he very much could have fluffed those lines as well, but he didn't. It all worked out. Everything kind of came together for England, and they looks like they walked through the group stage really being untested.
Yes.
But obviously the U.S., the big result, I think for our side, 1-0 must win. It was so nervy, up early in the first half. Pulisic squandered the 2v1. Cody, my God, we cannot counterattack. I don't know. Every single soccer club in America plays 3-on-2, 2-on-1 transition.
Yep.
And the only rule there is in that game, by the way, is shot on goal.
Yeah.
That's the only rule, because you're going to get a shot.
Yeah.
Just take the shot. And we botched so many counterattacks today. By the way, I'm going to take the jersey, get it repping.
Okay, there you go. I mean, from my perspective, I think that the way that the United States is playing with with Haji Wright or Josh Sargent up front is, really limiting their ability to truly counterattack. I think that they're playing into their feet, hoping that they can hold the ball, and then playing off Weah or players like Reyna coming off the bench and really giving them the width that they need to create those counterattacking opportunities. However, when you play against teams that come out to defend from minute 1, it makes it very difficult. And you can see that the U.S. only got those counterattacking created those counterattacking opportunities when Iran realized that they really needed to push for a goal in the second half.
Yeah. Iran came out in their 4-4-1-1 as expected. Taremi being their main striker.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. came out 4-3-3 again. A couple changes though. We had the 2 changes.
We did,
so,
and they were very surprising to me after the last game and how, or the last 2 games really. In my opinion, there had to be a tactical understanding. Maybe Walker had accumulated too many yellow cards, or there was a risk of him being suspended for the next round. I'm not sure if they reset, but that was quite surprising to me, especially because he played after the Wales game, having made the mistake, and I don't think he put a foot wrong in the England game.
No,
not anything major. So for me, that was the big shock in the lineup change.
Right, and to be fair, you are buds with Walker,
yes,
you're always going to be partial.
I am good friends with Walker.
What I would say, so that it was Turner in goal as expected. It was Anthony Robinson left back, Dest right back again as expected. Tim Ream left center back, and then Cameron Carter-Vickers came in for Walker Zimmerman. Apparently, Berhalter gave some explanation of he plays for Celtic. It's a tough league. It's like very much like physical, whereas Walker Zimmerman plays in the MLS. He felt like he needed a more physical
I did not know
center back in this game, knowing that Iran are very physical and like to swing the ball in.
Interesting. I don't agree with that.
Well,
I know Cameron. I know Cameron's a very strong player. He's a very good player.
Boy is thick.
Yes, he is. He's a very thick boy, and he's been that way since he was young too.
His Tottenham days.
Yes. When I think he was 17 or 18, playing in our Olympic cycle and getting called into camps, and a very mature player, very mature person, but I disagree with that that it was truly Greg's reasoning, because Walker has been defender of the year in MLS several times. He is the most physical, or one of the most physical center backs in this league, and his height gives him the ability to deal with crosses, which you could see in the last 20 minutes when they brought him on and they went to the 5-back system.
Yeah.
He was the one who was dealing with a lot of those crosses, and actually Cameron, I believe, put them in a little bit of a sticky situation where there could have been a penalty because he was on the wrong side of the Iranian striker.
Yeah, I was going to reference that too. I wish I could get the FIFA data pack this quickly, but the amount of aerial headers that he won when Zimmerman came on, I mean, he ate up everything in the box. Overall, though, with the back four, like they did play well. I thought CCV handled himself well.
Agreed.
Had to battle, especially coming in for your first minutes in a must-win game. Obviously not easy.
No, not at all.
But he settled in. You had McKennie, Tyler Adams, and Musa again in the midfield. Happy 20th birthday, Musa. How about a World Cup game, my kid?
You're absolutely right. And I think they gave him, permission on the field to take the free kick, and I was watching that and I was thinking, I really hope you score. That would be quite the birthday present, but unfortunately hit it over the crossbar. And
I don't know, like maybe Pulisic, but I don't know if we really have that many like free kick experts in this team.
Yeah, outside of Pulisic,
and I'm just kind of guessing at Pulisic,
right?
Because he doesn't take free kicks for Chelsea. I mean, he's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think that's because you have such world-class players around him at Chelsea. Yeah. I mean, looking at the starting 11, you would maybe say Tim Weah would have the ability to take a free kick. Other than that, I don't know.
Yeah. So, not something that we're really threatening from.
Yeah, I guess not.
The attacking three was Pulisic, Josh Sargent, and Timothy Weah. Going back to this is from the first game against Wales was our attacking three. Pulisic getting the goal about 35th, 36th minute. Massive collision with the goalkeeper, which, remember, the goalkeeper, who his name is, I'm sorry, I don't even know how to pronounce that, but he was the one who had the collision against England and got knocked out right away.
He is.
And now he's back and picked up another collision, but this time he walked away, and Pulisic really struggling.
Yes.
But we saw how many of those teasing crosses where no one really just kind of threw themselves on the line to just poke in. We finally got that conversion. Oh, what a huge goal. And big for Christian, obviously.
Yeah, great goal for Christian.
First World Cup goal, I would assume.
Yeah, I would assume so as well.
I haven't been there in 8 years.
Yes, well, that's a fair point. Obviously, maybe he got one in qualifying because
the first World Cup
goal. In my opinion,
game.
Probably the most important goal of his career to date.
Yes, because he missed one in the Champions League final against City.
That is, I wasn't even referencing that. I was saying above all the goals that he scored or all the opportunities that he's had, I think that this goal will mean the most to him because it is that final bit of release that I think he needed to take some of the pressure off of him.
Yeah, I mean, he's been dubbed Captain America, the LeBron James of soccer.
Which is all a little bit much, in my opinion. However,
until recently, though, he was head and shoulders above the rest of U.S. soccer. Until recently, we've now had a surge of success on the international stage. We talked about our midfield, all playing in top 5 leagues in Europe. You look at this lineup, you have
6 or 7 of them playing in Europe.
No MLS players in that starting 11. The only one was Walker Zimmerman, and he came in for Cameron Carter-Vickers. Now, I don't know where we want to rank the Scottish Premier League, but we can save that for another day.
You could argue that Celtic and Rangers are arguably, a championship division side.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think that that's a great level. I wouldn't mind playing for Celtic or Rangers.
Hit me up.
Call me.
You got Josh Sargent. He's in the championship. Who's he with again?
Norwich
City. That's right.
Norwich City.
He blends in so well with those yellow and green kids.
Oh, that's terrible. I feel so bad for you.
I mean, again, I thought we had the upper hand. It seemed like Iran were happy to sit in the first half. Leggy, tired. There,
Iran.
No, I think the U.S. both sides, but I thought the U.S. Weah definitely ran himself in the ground. Pulisic looked a little leggy the first touches, but what I do want to say is, my word, the pitches are starting to look like trash.
Yes,
I thought
the
same thing in the Senegal-Ecuador game. My friends are watching the England game. They said it was muddy.
Yep.
And this pitch, it like one time Pulisic, it bounced over his foot.
But I don't understand that, because part of the reason for hosting the World Cup in the winter was so the fields would be, not only the stadiums would be air conditioned and the weather would be better, but the fields would be maintained a little bit better because it wouldn't be so hot out, it wouldn't be so dry. Now you're getting muddy fields, so that's telling me that
players are slipping.
The groundsmen are, either not doing their jobs or don't know how to do their jobs.
It's almost
to
as
that level,
if there wasn't a
level,
lot of infrastructure for this World Cup.
I mean, I'm criticizing groundsmen, but they have so much to do in such a short span of time. However, I know that there are capable groundsmen out there, and I think that it's almost like there was no infrastructure, like you said.
Yeah, look, I probably am going to go up the ladder rather than the groundsmen. I'm sure they're working with a bad product that was installed late. It hasn't had time to grow through it.
That is...
and because they don't have a blossoming soccer league, which is, it's just the reality. They also don't have 3-4 years of getting these fields ready and working and maintaining. Yeah. So these groundsmen might be seeing stuff they've never seen before.
Agreed.
Because they're also there's a handful of stadiums. They're being played in every couple days, right? Yeah. And so, like I said, this is probably a new challenge for them, but this is FIFA's responsibility. They owe it to the players to have safe fields.
Absolutely.
And here we are again. So I hope that now we're almost done with the flurry of games. They're going to start to be spread out a little bit.
Yes.
Hopefully they can get some maintained a little bit better. But I mean, we're going to get back to youth soccer where you can't warm up in the 18, Cody.
Oh gosh. Oh no. I mean, they actually still do that in professional soccer, but yes, I would agree. I think that the quality of pitch does not seem to be up to par with what you would expect at a World Cup. And I know fans might be sitting there saying, just deal with deal with the level. You guys are good enough. However, if you want quality product on the field, you need quality field. It's as simple as that, in my opinion.
It's the biggest soccer tournament in the world, competition, like the UEFA Champions League. Do you remember when they went to Russia and they laid? Yeah, because they laid a sod field over a turf field days before it.
Well, I remember playing in New England with the Revolution and playing Chelsea in a friendly match.
I was there for that game.
And they laid sod over the turf. There was a partition in the turf, or in the sod, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek tore his Achilles. It's, if you want good product, you need good fields.
Yeah, that was a disaster
it was
of a field.
Because it was a friendly match, and one of their best players at the time picks up a 12-month injury and really impacted his career.
Yeah, Ruben was great under Maurizio Sarri. He's really finding form, and it was at the end of this season before we had the Europa League final and stuff.
Yes.
Sorry, Chelsea fan, in case I haven't outed myself already. So,
terrible
pitches
decision.
matter.
Terrible.
Look, there's safety issues as well as just quality issues.
Yes.
that we can get into. So some of the top line stats from this one, the United States had 12 shots, 5 on target. Massive improvement from what we've seen. I think we've had 2 shots on target in the first 2 games. So to have 5 shots on target, that also shows you there's impetus to convert and do something. Iran had 4 shots, only 1 on target. And I think it was a header that kind of dribbled to Turner. So he wasn't really challenged today.
Correct.
Which was great.
Yes, I remember that header. And it was probably the 60th, 65th minute. And the only other time that he was tested was, in my opinion, when he gets caught in no man's land towards the end there.
Right at the very end.
Right at the very, very end. Obviously, that happens to goalkeepers very often. He gets a piece of it, puts himself maybe in a difficult situation. But that being said, at this point of the game, they've been defending for 20 minutes. It's the 95th, 96th minute. It's very difficult to judge these balls, especially when you're in that moment and you want to impact the play.
And if he recognized that, Vickers is on the wrong side, he also knows that, well, I got to try to do something.
Agreed.
51% possession for the United States. Passes were pretty even. Pass accuracy, we were at 83%. They were at 77%, so an edge there. We had 10 fouls there, 14. 1 yellow card to their 3. No red cards. You got a messy house? What's up?
No, there's a little bug.
Oh, yeah, I see him over there. Yeah. Oh, a spider. Nice.
No.
One offside to their
Sorry,
2.
guys.
5 corners to their 1. So a very even match in this situation, which I think just, again, Iran showed so much heart and passion. Again, it would have been the first time that they've ever advanced out of the group stages. So they had a lot of passion and pride to play for too, and Carlos Queiroz had them prepared with a rigid game plan. And, I mean, they almost nicked it because remember they only needed an equalizer.
They only needed an equalizer.
So
and they,
stressed.
when that moment happened, when Matt comes out, Cameron's on the wrong side of the striker. You're thinking, oh goodness, this is the moment. This is it. And fortunately, the ball kind of trickles past Turner. I think it was Serginho Dest recovers to clear it, maybe
there was
2-3 yards off the line. It's one of those situations where the U.S. does well to recover, and they put themselves in a great spot to finish the rest of the game out.
Thankfully, there was not much left. 9 minutes of stoppage time, which, again, the amount of stoppage time in this tournament is wild. They are setting new precedents that we've never seen before. And again, I wonder if that was discussed with the players pre-tournament because the media didn't talk about it.
Yeah, it had to be discussed before.
Can you imagine being out there and seeing like 14 minutes as a player?
No, I cannot, because you're sitting there thinking, oh yeah, 5 minutes. Maximum 6 minutes. Like
the EPL,
you see 9 minutes, 9 to 15 minutes has been, what seems to be the average, 9 to 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
At that point, you're thinking, wow, this is this is almost like playing extra time, and that can be not only quite taxing physically, but taxing mentally, knowing you've got another 10 to 15 minutes to play out, to see out. And when you're up 1-0 versus a team that is just dumping pressure on you, you've already committed to going to 5 in the back. You're playing 1 up front. You're just absorbing pressure. You see that 9-minute mark go up, or that board with 9 minutes go up. You're thinking, this is going to be a long 9 minutes.
I saw Musa's head drop a little bit. He was very tired at the end.
Yes.
Had some bright spots. But yeah, so let's talk about some of the subs. A little game management from Greg Berhalter here. Brendan Aronson came on at halftime for an injured Pulisic. So we lost him.
Yes.
We don't know how long. I've seen tweets that he went to the hospital. Berhalter said at halftime his abdomen. Everyone looked like he got smashed in the groin. It could be bruised ribs.
Yeah.
More
Either
will
way,
come.
It's not ideal.
100%. Then later in the second half, Kellen Acosta came on for Weston McKennie. He looked leggy as well, so makes sense. Kellen. My buddies were surprised that he came in, but I kind of looked at the roster, and especially like seeing what Kellen's done with LAFC, I'm like, he's gonna work hard. He's gonna put in a tackle. He's got a tidy pass on him. Like I felt like I liked having an engine in there next to Tyler.
And it's not only an engine, but it's a player that brings a lot of experience, and you know what you're going to get from Kellen.
Just won the MLS
You bring
Cup.
him on, he's dependable, and he's going to work hard. And Greg needs that in that moment. That's what not only Greg needs, but that's what the team needs. And he's going to go in and he's going to give you everything that he's got in the tank.
Yeah, and especially if it's a physical Iran team, like
Exactly.
Kellen gonna back down?
No, not at all. He's got a bit of bite to him, and in the MLS, players know that. I don't think that players go into tackles with him because he does have that bite. However, in this stage of his career, I think that the Iranian players may not know that because he is still young, and has not played in a top 5 league, unfortunately. I know that there was some interest actually in his when Colorado traded him to LAFC. They refused. There was something where they refused to sell him abroad. I don't know. We'd have to look into that, but
sounds like a little
because
Don
they got
Garber.
they got a little more cheddar from LAFC than I think a team in Europe was willing to pay. But that's besides the point. However, back to the question.
Your point saying he's European quality.
Absolutely. And they're bringing him off the bench, and you know what you're going to get with him. And it's one of those things that he gets the job done.
Then the third sub was Haji Wright coming in for an injured Josh Sargent. Landed so weird where he thought he was going to land somewhere else, missed the player, landed on the ball, and just firmly flat foot planted and hyperextended.
Yeah. Didn't look great.
He looked good after the game once he'd won.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm sure there'll be MRIs and everything to make sure that everything is structurally sound. But hopefully he recovers quickly because it seems like injuries are stacking up. Fatigue is, really hitting the team hard, and it's not like they have that quick of a turnaround before they face in what is now you're seeing a very dark horse favorite Dutch team.
Yeah. And that's what happens when you don't get to rotate at all.
Agreed. Well, or you're playing every 3 days.
Both.
4 days, yeah.
For sure. I mean, even England had the luxury of making 4 subs this game,
Yes,
made
they
2
did.
last game. There's not enough Normatex and Ice Baths in Qatar right now for these guys.
No, there is not.
Look, I'm not an anti-player at all. I just felt like Haji Wright didn't offer much of anything
I agree.
late in the game. He's a big boy.
He is.
And I'm kind of like, why not put a Geo in to at least like pressure? We talked about this at the England game. He wasn't able to run anything down up top. He wasn't really applying pressure from the front. And I just felt like he kind of let the side down in that sense. Now, again, I don't know what maybe he was told tactically to do, but the simplest of like the effort, it wasn't there. And I don't know if he's a target man for the long ball clearances, try to knock it down and hold it up, but he didn't even get that.
No, I agree. And I don't know. That was one of the question marks for me in roster selection. I haven't really followed Haji Wright. I've seen him play
Turkey.
I've seen him play a few times for the national team. However, I think that in my opinion, I don't know him. There are players that will give you that extra bit that you need, such as a Kellen Acosta in the MLS. An example would be Brandon Vasquez, who had a fantastic season this year with Cincinnati and really jumped onto the stage, and I don't think that he got a fair look. I think Jesus Ferreira is on the bench. He's another player that will go in and work his socks off.
Which is apparently supposed to be a favorite of Greg.
Yes, and he hasn't seen the field once.
No. Well, we'll have to see. Again, hopefully he comes back and scores a hat trick and sends us to the World Cup final. I'd be the first one in line to celebrate him. But today, we do have to be honest.
Let's be realistic.
Some people, that was a thing that I felt a little frustrated with. Again, what is Greg going for in that situation? Yes. I'm guessing, a lot of long ball clearances. He'll try to have to hold and let the play come to him. It didn't even happen. Then he finally made the decision with about 15 minutes left, I believe. Actually, not even. Let me double check, because this is when he threw on the defenders.
I think it was 10 minutes left in regular time.
Yeah, so it was around the 80th minute. He said, you know what? We are now going to officially defend for our lives.
Yes.
I think I said 15 minutes because I knew there'd be at least 5 minutes stoppage.
Right.
Stupid me. Should have been more. Serginho Dest came off. He also looked gassed.
Yeah.
Shaq Moore came on, made his second appearance, and then that's when Walker Zimmerman came on for Timothy Weah, taking off an attacker, adding a defender, switched to a back 3-5, however you want to sparse it.
And in this case, it was a back 5.
Back 8.
Yes, essentially.
Thoughts on bunkering the last 10 minutes the way it was going?
I
mean, obviously Zim did great.
Yeah, I think the team did great. It's really a coach's preference on how you want to finish a game, whether you want to finish in the 4-4-2 or the 4-3-3 or the 5-3-2, however, or the 8-1 that it kind of seemed the U.S. was playing. That said, I think in this moment, it's a good decision from Greg because you add the extra defender, you leave Brendan Aronson, who technically, should have gas left in the tank because he's only played 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. You let the other guys drop in and, defend and see out what the Iranian team began to dump into the U.S. box, and they actually created a lot of chances. Mm-hmm. But the U.S. team did very well in mitigating a lot of that.
Yeah, a lot of fouls around our box because of tired legs.
Absolutely, and that's normal. A lot of these guys, yes, they've been playing in their leagues. However, it's not easy, and you're seeing not just the U.S. but other teams. They only had 4 or 5 days leading into the World Cup to get into camp, to get acquainted back with their national team and their teammates, and figure out their systems. And now the travel to Qatar, the games, the training, all of that is beginning to add up, and you're starting to see that. Plus, if the fields are heavy, the fatigue becomes even more so as the games go on.
Yeah. So again, overall, got the job done. You could tell that we haven't been there in 8 years. But not only getting to the World Cup and now advancing out of the group stages is a big marker for a developing soccer country. Couldn't be more excited.
First of all, it's football.
Well,
it's football.
Depends who you ask. The chants in the stadium said otherwise.
This is true.
And as someone who was just sitting there as a nervous wreck at work today, it was good to have that sense of relief when the referee finally blew his whistle. And so, yeah, I by the way, first good referee the United States has seen.
I would agree.
And he's a well-established Spanish referee who does Champions League and stuff. So, I recognized him from Champions League. And when I saw him, I was like, all right, good.
Yeah.
We'll be in a good spot. So I thought that was a nice little bonus as we rounded out the group stage.
Absolutely.
All right, let's move on. England versus Wales, your lot. I don't know. You tell me where you want to start. The lineup, like I said, he made 4 changes. Pickford in goal again. Walker came in, not as a center back, but as a right back in a 4. Yep. John Stones, Harry Maguire back to your center backs. Luke Shaw's to your left back. Bellingham, Rice, and then Henderson getting the start after seeing him against the United States. Phil Foden coming in. Harry Kane and Marcus Rashford. So I think it was Saka, Mount, who's right back? Trippier, and then who is their other attacker? Sterling? Yeah.
Sterling.
So Sterling and Saka out as well. So 4-3-3?
Yeah, very standard.
Needed a point.
For England right now. They needed a point. It's really, they didn't even need a point to advance. They could have advanced with a loss, I believe, right?
It depended on how our game went.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, they needed a point. They knew that going into the game. They made some changes. I think the attacking changes really helped them because they did look a little flat versus the United States. But all in all, very good performance.
So, he used all 5 subs. Callum Wilson got on for the first time. Trent Alexander-Arnold got on for the first time. Calvin Phillips got on for the first time. And then Grealish and Trippier came back in, so managing Walker's minutes as he's coming back from injury. Again, this is best case for England. They've not only got to completely rest Raheem, you completely rested Saka and Mount. they're still trying to get Madison up to fitness. He was a gamble going into this.
Yeah,
But now
agreed.
they've got fresher legs. And not only that, if you do need a Callum Wilson late in a game in a knockout round, he's got minutes now. He's acclimated a little bit.
And not only that, you know what you're going to get from him. He's going to go in and he's going to work hard. He's going to run the channels. He's going to press, center backs. He's going to press goalkeepers. He's
I
going
like to call it bullying center backs.
Yeah.
Callum's a bully.
Yes, he is. He is. He's a workhorse, and he does a very good job of it.
You same thing. Calvin Phillips, he got in there, got some touches, moved the ball around. They ended up cruising 3-0. Top line stats from this one, it just goes and says the same. I know Bale got injured early, but Wales just didn't have a lot going for him. 18 shots, 7 on target for England. Wales had 7 shots, only the 1 on target. 65% possession for England, which is a lot. Almost double the passes for England. 86 pass accuracy to 78 for them. 9 fouls, England. 16 fouls from Wales. Just couldn't get out of their own way. A couple cautions. An offsides apiece, 6 corners to England. I mean, it was smooth sailing for them.
Yeah, I would agree, and it really has been the entire group stage. A little bit here, a little bit there. However, like you said, it's been smooth sailing not only today but through the group stages, and hopefully, and my hopes is that smooth sailing continues in the next round on Saturday.
How do I put this? England have been a bit boring.
Yes, they have.
Okay, they
to a
smashed
point, they have
Iran
been.
6-2.
Yeah.
But to your point, they're not getting the credit like Spain going out beating Costa Rica even the way they did. Brazil had a little bit of a closer game, but it seems like England have had a bit of a quiet tournament.
Yeah, they've been under the radar, and in my opinion, that's where they need to be. They don't need it's coming home. They don't need this pressure. No, they don't need that pressure. They need to go out. They need to take care of business. And to this point, they've done that. And now they have a tough test against Senegal on Saturday, and hopefully they can get it done.
So I only bring that up because I think the noise outside of the English team is loud. The fans want more, want to see more,
they
questioning
do.
Southgate. But don't you think internally they're right where they want to be inside their camp?
Inside the camp, they are very happy with where they are. I think the pressure from the media, from the fans, from England is always there. There's pressure. There's always pressure on England because they are arguably one of the best footballing nations in the world, and whether they get second, third, fourth, fifth, it never lives up to the expectations of the English media or the English fans. Unless they win, it's not good enough. And I understand that. However, as a player, it's not, you can't win everything. And I know that it's been nearly 50 years since they won.
1966.
I understand that.
Everyone knows that.
Trying to do the math in my head really quick.
No, man.
50 plus years.
Yeah, it's like 50, 55 years roughly.
I know it's been a long time, but they're building and they're doing well. And you can see Gareth Southgate's plans now coming through. You have senior players in camp. You have young players in camp. There's a mesh happening, whereas I think Berhalter has really learned a lot from Southgate. I believe that they had conversations Greg Berhalter reached out to Gareth Southgate when he first got the job and talked a lot to him about what he'd done with the England setup and how he transitioned everything. And you can see that the U.S. setup has taken a lot from how Gareth Southgate set up the England team and their arrangements. And I think it's really coming to fruition for both sides because there's youth coming through, there's seniority in the England side, and you will see that in the next World Cup or two with the U.S. side as well.
I would say the England team seems very, very well balanced. Obviously, I think we can all pick on Harry Maguire and say he's probably a weak link. Their back line is still doing well. I would also argue that Pickford, he's not their number one goalkeeper, but from a consistency and a Southgate perspective, he's going to stick with this guy. But if you just look at the 3 levels that they have, I mean, they're just strong across
Absolutely.
each one. Now all they're waiting to find out is who is going to be the difference maker when they get into a really tough game, because that's the only thing they haven't had, unless you consider the U.S. a tough game, but they didn't have to win it. How are they going to do when they get into 0-0, 88th minute, you have to win to go on? Who's going to be the game changer?
Right, but that's been the question for the last 2 World Cups, and that's been the question since Gareth Southgate took over, is how do you handle those situations? Because in the last World Cup, they didn't handle it well. Unfortunately, I think it was the game versus Croatia. They go down a goal or two, and they can't come back. And
Luke Shaw didn't he score right away, and then Croatia just over 90 minutes just took
90
over.
minutes overtook them. Yes, I believe you're correct. And it's one of those situations where you're going to get into these moments where the team is going to have to dig themselves out. It's not up to the coach. It's not up to Gareth Southgate at that point. It's the players on the field that have to dig out of these holes and dig out of these moments.
And there's no doubt they have the quality. They just have to go out and do
Absolutely.
it. So,
absolutely.
All right. Well, to wrap up, we do have the Group A and B standings. As we talked about, Netherlands on top of the Group A with 7 points. They had 2 wins and a draw, so they walk through undefeated. Senegal, the exciting game with Ecuador, they go through with 2 wins as well, 6 points. Ecuador third, Qatar fourth. Home nation not really getting much besides a participation medal in this tournament, but
it's very unfortunate.
I don't think we had any expectations.
No, I certainly did not. I don't. Obviously, you're the host nation. You deserve to be there for that reason. However, from a qualification standpoint, they've obviously never been there because they have never qualified or been good enough to qualify. So
they stirred the pot in CONCACAF.
They did last year in the Gold Cup, right? Yeah. Well,
I was shocked. I was like,
anything can happen in a soccer tournament.
I was like, where is Qatar coming from in the CONCACAF?
Yes.
We've got enough problems the way it is. England in Group B topped it, undefeated, 2 wins and a draw, 7 points. The U.S. in second on 5 points with 2 draws and a win. Iran on third points. And actually Wales dead last with only a single point.
Yeah, it's actually quite disappointing for my...
your bracket?
My bracket, yeah. Because I had Wales going through.
Really?
I did, yes. I expected them to do better. After I watched that video, who's the actor that you sent me?
I don't remember, but
Sorry,
that was...
Brandon's struggling
that was
here.
Fantastic. That rousing speech.
Yes.
Beforehand.
Maybe we'll post that with this...
And I mean, Wales beat Ukraine.
With this episode so that you all can see that.
Yeah, Wales beat Ukraine.
Wales did beat Ukraine, and they're a good team. And I don't know. The level of player that they have, I expected more from them. Yeah. I expected Gareth Bale to put the team on his shoulders and, really help them. But it did not play out that way. For sure. So the top seed in Group A will play the second seed in Group B, which means Netherlands will be the top seed playing the United States. Is the second seed, and then in the reverse fixture, the top seed in Group B, England, will play second seed in Group A, which is Senegal. So if you had to choose between Senegal and Netherlands, do you think that we got the right team? Gakpo making headlines that he scored in every single group stage? I do not think that that's the right matchup for the U.S. However, it's going to be a tough matchup either way. So pick your poison. Because it's now lose or go home, and
lose and
go home.
Win or go home.
Get
lose off your mind.
Sorry. I'm sorry. Obviously, it's my mentality.
Talk about dark horse. I mean, the Dutch, same thing. Not making a lot of noise.
No.
Beating
again under the radar.
Qatar. Who'd they draw? They drew Ecuador and then beat Senegal as well. Mendy with a bit of a howler on that cross, but they've done enough. And again, like I was saying, Gakpo, he's come in, scored in all 3 of their games. He's young, raw attacker, but he's doing really well in the Eredivisie. They're not going to be a physical matchup.
No,
but they do have Van Dijk, and so Frankie de Jong in the midfield.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how the U.S. lines up and adjusts tactically to deal with what the Dutch have been able to to do so far.
Defend for our lives.
We'll see.
All right. Well, that's what's next. I mean, for the United States and England, again, the rest of this week is going to be the finalization of all the groups. So we'll be back once the group stages are finalized and we know the bracket for the knockout. So that's kind of the schedule. We've got a lot of games to watch yet at the end of this week. I think there's going to be a lot of fireworks between now and then. I'm excited.
I am too. It'll be good.
Round 3 of the group stages. Anyways, that's all for us. Again, if you would, leave us a review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you listen to us. We appreciate it. Share it with a soccer friend as we get going. World Cup fever.
Football fan.
It's around. It's maybe not as strong as it usually is, but we're still here soaking it up. So anyways, thank you, everybody. We'll be back later this week.